Thank you for joining us on the show. But I wanted to learn a little bit more about you, who you work for, and kind of how you got into marketing.
Well, I currently work for Widgix, who owns Survey Gizmo, and we run Marketer Gizmo. And let's see, we're a software company. We do online survey software. Marketers use our software a lot, so that's how Marketer Gizmo got started, trying to make some nice resources for one of our audience segments. As far as how I got into marketing, I have an English background, so I have the writer bug. And then when content marketing started kind of coming around, it coincided very nicely with me coming back into the workforce after taking time off with my kids. And it's been just, perfect storm as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I love that English background, right? Your background in writing, because I think that's part of the aspect of what has always attracted me to use, because I was talking about Agile marketing a lot, and all of a sudden someone else started talking about it, and it was exciting. And the stuff you were saying was great. It was right on par with the stuff that I was hoping would be said. And so it was very exciting to finally get to meet you, but then talk online, connect, and I think in marketing it's almost adversarial too often.
Absolutely.
And it's like, oh, I'm writing on this topic, so I have to dislike everyone else.
Right, or nobody else can talk with me. It's just me like projecting out.
Exactly. It's like everyone wants to be the thought leader, and so you can't have anybody else at the top, and unfortunately it isn't that way. And I think it's stunted content in marketing for a very long time, because we keep talking about introductions over and over and over again. But on the topic of Agile marketing, what kind of led you to using Agile methods in the way you're producing content?
Well, I was doing research for a blog post about marketing plans and how people make them, and I wanted to try to come up with a template that we could provide to people who were getting started and feeling overwhelmed with the whole process. And I was feeling overwhelmed with the process of just researching it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, I've been in several marketing departments. I've never seen anyone actually implement one of these massive documents. There has to be like a smarter way to do this that works in reality, not just in the theory world.
Exactly.
And my husband's a developer. I've heard him talk about, stand up and Scrum and kind of the general stuff. And I thought, they iterate, they adapt and adjust every couple of weeks. Why don't we do that? That seems like a much more sensible way to deal with the realities of marketing. So I did some research and found out, hey, there is Agile marketing, and things just started snowballing from there. I convinced our marketing department that we needed to adopt these methodologies, and we've been kind of learning as we go and educating ourselves as much as we can and trying to share what we're learning. Because it's like you've said, there's not a lot of voices out in the wilderness, talking about this, but it's really just made, in my opinion, my whole day better. Like, I'm stressed out less. Mm-hmm. I produce more in the same amount of time with less drama.
Yeah.
I really feel like it's great for marketers, makes their lives easier, and it's great for businesses because we can produce more, and we reduce burnout. So I feel like everybody wins.
Yeah. So tell us some of the stories kind of behind like the team's adoption and kind of where you've had some of those aha moments for other people who weren't familiar, right?
Sure.
I know my wife is the spouse of an Agile person too, so she knows all about it. And she's a Scrum Master now, so she is, on the same level of speaking on the topic. But for the longest time, it was always, hey, this is how we incorporate it. But what are the other marketers who have never seen the process? What are they like?
Well, we started off doing a lot of Scrum stuff, so big meetings, and we never really got very good at estimation, and so that's been kind of an ongoing conversation. But as we've kind of like sampled other methodologies, those have been some really cool aha moments, like when we started looking more at Kanban and like the pull-based systems where you have kind of a prioritized list and everybody's working on like the next most important thing. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of like, you don't have to restrict yourselves to the cycle. You can go at different paces because we have content going in social media. We also have marketing website development happening, and all those things run at very different cadences.
Yeah, I like Kanban. I think it's a cool approach, and I always think it's like the graduation of Scrum. So after your team gets going, and you know, the time, I love the time box, but I come from a world of consulting, and so we have to deliver on something in a time frame. And so it is the one way the developers of content or of software can actually put their skin in the game and say, this is what I'm committing to. But it does require that high level of estimation and understanding. But I really like how when you use the work in process flow, that it's like we're just going to go. We're going to move at the pace that we're going to move at. The bucket limits keep us from going beyond the sustainability. And then we're doing regular check-ins and cadence with our team to make sure no one's getting burned.
Yeah, but also as a content manager who's collecting and distributing content from a lot of different sources, I also like the time box for certain things, because then I know I'm going to get X number of pieces of content by the end of this amount of time, and it helps people who are not quite as accustomed to writing, right? You've got this set period of time, so I can't follow my train of thought off into the wilderness and it's gone forever.
And I like the team building aspects of it too. So if somebody's struggling, the team rallies around them because it's the whole team who committed to the sprint.
Exactly.
And when they end, we better have finished content. There is no failure of sprints, only brought down from upper management down, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm very harsh about it though. So what do you think is next for you? What are some of the other topics in Agile marketing that you are excited about?
I'm really interested to see how more of the recurring tasks can be better integrated into any kind of the methodologies, because it's not something that developers really have to worry too much about. I mean, you have to QA everything, but you're QAing what you're working on. We have to engage on social media. We just have to. We have to continuously work on our SEO. You can't, it's not a check. We're done with that. It's in the done column and now we're finished with it. Even content, when we put it out, we need to be revisiting it every few weeks. Did that post perform? No? Okay, why not? So these just repetitive tasks, where do they go? How do we account for that time that people are needing to spend on them?
Exactly.
And where does that fall in priority lists?
It all bubbles. It's interesting because I'm in the same boat as you. I think that the teams are starting to become more autonomous, where there's not a writer and a graphic designer and somebody else, and we're just passing stuff through the assembly line. We're working on different things together. We're all getting better, and we're becoming kind of this cohesive unit. But the content owner role is going through the issue, right? They're the ones that adjust priority. They're the ones that really need to be reviewing content for state. They're the ones that need to be listening to the audience and updating the personas and getting new problems that they're facing and tracking the content that's working and putting things in there, and then also looking at some of the analytics to say, look, we're really struggling here on this SEO. We need to put a new item on the board, higher priority, to make some adjustments to that content. Because it feels like most people will just start to lower the ideal day and then put some of these residual tasks in.
Yeah.
And that's what developers do too. I mean, everything starts to lump up to the definition of done, and then your ideal day goes down because people don't know how to estimate something so large, and so they start to get a little slower, and we start to wonder why there's not as many tasks on the board, but people are still working on stuff all the time. And so I'm hoping that the content owner, like you're talking about, is the next conversation of what it really means to be the person at the helm of a content marketing effort.
Yeah. And we've had kind of the opposite problem too, where our board got out of control because we were trying to account for everything in that was happening, even if it wasn't necessarily like a sprint objective. We felt like we needed to somehow represent everything on the board, and it was just whoa. We would try to talk about every card at stand up, and we're like, this is like a half an hour, this is not okay. So there's a medium in there somewhere, and I haven't found it yet.
Yeah, exactly. How do you blend a task that we know we do, we have objectives and criteria on using it like a traditional definition of done or something like that, but then not have it become, unused because people are doing it so frequently and not revisit it. It's a difficult thing because there's a lot more of these smaller tasks in marketing compared to software development.
Yeah.
So it is fun, but I think it's definitely obtainable. And like you said, you can have you get a lot more gold stars because if you have more tasks on the board, you're accomplishing more stuff. But then we can also see like where maybe some of our talent can do some cross-training. Because I think in marketing teams, we got a lot of senior people and got a lot of younger people, and they're not interacting. So one of the early days of software development, when extreme programming was agile, there was this whole concept of paired programming, and it's not very popular anymore. But you would have 2 sets of keyboards, 2 mice, 1 machine.
So everything's showing up on the same monitor.
It was the same computer. And it was like, all right, I'm going to type, and then you're going to type, and we're going to work together. And I like that concept for marketing because I think sitting down with a senior writer to produce a piece of content together, right? So I'm writing for a little bit, you're writing for a little bit, but we're both asking questions or critiquing. I think there's going to be so much more that translates down. So people working on the same task to get that share of thoughts, I think is definitely going to help the team become more autonomous. And then you have some younger people that can jump on a team and start to take some of those smaller tasks.
Yeah.
And really, take it away from there.
Yeah, I interviewed John Stahl this morning. He does Lean Dog. They're out over here, and they do Agile consulting. And he was talking about like doing the same kind of thing, like one computer and 2 people like writing content together or writing emails together or whatever. And in theory, I really love that. But then like my writer voice comes in and is like, no,
I don't want to do that.
No one else can write my stuff. And I think that's also where like marketers get in trouble, is because we want to say I did that.
Yeah.
That's my article, that's my infographic, and it's pulling in X number of views and downloaded X number of times. We want to be the one who did that.
There's ownership because it's like, it goes along that award mentality, right? That companies have, but then marketers have too. It's like, this is my piece of content. It's got my name on it. I don't want to share that with somebody else.
That split byline is painful for us.
If we can get over that fear, we're going to see some great content come out. Because I'm really excited about it. Content Marketing 2.0, where we get out of the introduction, we get out of this, okay, we all know what the heck we're talking about now. We can agree on that. Now we need to continue the conversation. And how do small companies do this, and how do big companies do this, and how do we reach audience? Because it's still almost all about me still. And it's like we got to flip it and really dig into those personas. So I think Agile is definitely queued up to help that conversation.
Well, and as more and more people really get on board, more and more people are going to start getting to that adolescent phase where they're like, okay, the bloom is off the rose now. How do I make this a sustainable, long-term system in my organization without burning through writers every 6 months?
Exactly.
And people are going to want to start coming to an understanding of how to systematize it.
Exactly. And then the last conversation I think people are going to have in 2016 towards the end is, how does my agency get on board, right? How do they become a cohesive part of my team? How do they commit to sprints versus retainer, right? Because I think the agency world is getting ready to get its head flipped. Because all these content marketing teams are either taking the voice completely from the brand and doing the content marketing effort in their agency, and it's really short campaigns disguised as content marketing. But really, how do they integrate, right? How are we a resource assistance for the marketing teams? How do we get on sprints? How do we get our billing on sprints? Because it's not by article anymore.
Right.
It's not by hour. It's by something else.
Yeah.
So, it's a new conversation.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
I can't wait to, when we get back, we'll record another episode where we sit down in the studio, and I'll bring you in over Skype and we can keep the conversation going.
Cool.
All right, thanks a lot.
That's great.